Sup chopper fans, thought I'd keep you updated on my new project we're working on for my mate Trevor. I think it's a vn900, might be bigger, I don't know. But we're stretching it, raking it, removing the top tube. As you can see, I'm minging. Been grinding all day, remachined the old headstock up. It's a lot of work to just even get the headstock off, but I'll show you what I'm doing. So that's the original rubbish top tube. Excuse the mess, I've been literally grinding all day. I've took the top tube right out now. Just starting to clean it all up and cope it up, ready to start lining it up in the jig. Machined the old headstock down, cleaned that up. And then, yeah, I'm now going to start setting it up in the jig, set the rake up, set the ride height up, bolt it all down, ready to go. So, top tube is in. I've had to cut it back and lengthen these side rails because they didn't join at all. We used 2-inch tube on this. Next up is putting a little gooseneck in it. Nothing radical, too much. Just going to stretch these up, make sure they fit around the radiator. I'll have a tiny little kink just up the top there. So top tube is in. Next up is to do the front down tubes. I've got to clear them for the radiator, and it's going to have a small gooseneck on this one. Modified the seat rail so they touch the top tube, all TIG welded up. And then next up is to clean up these horrible welds. Get rid of these things that are on here from the previous owner. Look at that. Send pigeons do better stuff than that. So next up is the gooseneck. We only have a small gooseneck on this one. I've made a tight fitting slug in here. I've just got to deburr the top. Then we're going to plug weld it. I always radius the edges off on these slugs as well, because it's just another, you don't have a sharp edge yet on the inside of the tube. It probably will never hurt it, but it's just not worth risking having a cracking point there when the tube flexes. So yeah, I've bent this little bit of tube up. Now I've got to notch it and make it fit. This is the hard part. Right, so that's the first bit of slug welded in. I've drilled it as well, both sides, so we can weld them up as a plug. And then same on the tube, wherever I put that. Same on the tube, I'll deburr it, clean it up, V it out, ready to weld on. Right, so I've got the down tubes in, cross brace in the same place as the standard one pretty much, so we can mount all the original coils, water tank and everything off it without having to make loads of new brackets. Yeah, it's pretty much getting there now. So yeah, got the little cross plate in there over the seat rails to mount the tank and the seat to. A nice little one in the top there, little extra reinforcement, and it just looks nice. Radiator mount is on. Ignore the stupidly long bolt, that's the only one I could find. And yeah, so basically just got to finish final welding it, grind up all the welds, and she's ready to go on her wheels. Yo, so we're back on the VN build today. It's -2 I think in here. It's fucking freezing. Anyway, so I'm now mounting the tank. So what I've done is I've just clamped it on at the back to keep it in the straight in the middle, and then I've cut the original tank mounts off. I'm going to clean these up, and they should, well, as you can see on that one, I've wedged it in there just to see, they fit perfectly. So what I'll do is I'll line them up, tack them onto the MIG welder, and then I can look at mounting the back of the tank. Right, that's the tank mounts welded on at the front. As you can see, one is longer than the other on the left hand side. It's because inside the tank there's a big recess on the left hand side. I'm not really sure why. I think it's to clear the, oh I know, it's to clear the expansion tank that sits underneath the fuel tank there. So obviously got to make sure that clears when I mount it all. But now on to mounting the back. Right, so I'm going to start, just mark these. I'm going to centre punch these, ready to drill them. And if you get a power tool, and don't do that when you start with, you shouldn't be allowed to use a power tool, because that's the rule. Right, with the tank mounted, I've cut off one of the original mounting tags, so this expansion tank, and then tack that on. We're off to the seat now. So it had the seat on here originally, as you can see, very well made. But instead of making a whole new one, I'm just going to cut it off here, fabricate a new front piece. It's all going to get powder coated anyway, and then reshape all of this so I don't have to remake all of this box section stuff. It's already mounted on at the back, so it's just going to save me loads of time, customer loads of money, and I'll make it look pretty. So I've trimmed off that fucking awful front part, And now what I've done, I've made a little template out of card. It's a bit hard to hold. It fits in the gap snug. I'll cut that out of steel, TIG it on. Right, so I've skipped a few bits because they're a bit boring, like mounting the seat and that. Now I'm mounting this mudguard properly. Before, it was mounted with a bit of sheet steel, which ripped the hole in the mudguard and obviously snapped off. So what I've got under here is a bit of chain that I use for clearance. This is belt drive, so the wheel's not really ever going to move from when it's set. But I still like to give them clearance because the amount of bike builders and stuff I know run them really tight to the tyre. And then the tyre swells up when it gets hot, rips the paint off. And fucks your tyre up, so you don't want to do that. So what I've done, I've got a nice bit of 5mm steel under here. I'm going to drill into the swinging arm. I'm going to weld some threaded bungs in the swinging arm to mount it to. And then I'm going to reinforce this plate underneath as well. Give it some extra strength, and hopefully that should be the front mount done. This is going to have a little sissy bar on it as well. This is a chopper club bike, so it's going to do a lot of miles. So he needs somewhere to strap his luggage. And the previous sissy bar, well, I'll be quite honest, the fact that a so-called professional bike shop built it as well, I've never seen nothing like it. So I love making sissy bars, so stay tuned for that as well. So these are the mudguard mounts. I don't know if you can hear me that well because it's quite noisy. But I like to make top hats. One, because they're easy to weld round and you won't interfere with getting in the thread. And two, it kind of spreads the load a little bit over the material that you're welding to. Gives you a nice flat surface to mount to as well, rather than just bolting to a round surface. Here's Gordon. Hey Gordon. How you doing? So yeah, next up I've made this little sissy bar out of stainless. It's got a big of a step out one side to clear the belt than the other side. Much better than the 4-foot tall thing it had on there before that snapped off because it was made, well, it was just horrific, to be honest with you. I like to try and keep my bends sort of tight to the mudguard. I'll put a brace in here just to give it a little bit of extra strength. Looks better, more stuff to tie to. Gives it a little bit of support on these bends as well. I make these out of 14mm stainless. 12mm is just not strong enough. 14mm, I've never had any issues with 14mm bending or anything, so it's always been good. But yeah, so I'm going to start mounting this up next. I would have videoed the process of it, but to be quite honest, I forgot. So you've got a sissy bar now. Here's one I made earlier. Haha. Yeah, stay tuned. So, I don't know if you can hear me over the noise, but I'm now machining up some threaded bungs to weld to the mudguard. I've already pre-made the ones that weld on the sissy bar out of stainless steel with a little countersink in them for the Allen bolt. So these will go behind the sissy bar, weld on a mudguard, and that will support the sissy bar as well. I always put them behind the sissy bar because there's less strain on the weld, because the backrest is pushing against the boss on the solid material and the bolt rather than being pulled on the weld. I don't know if it actually makes any difference, but that's what I've always done, and I think it looks nicer. Try and hide them up a little bit. Woo! Right, so my biggest advice to anyone doing engineering stuff, I mean, I'm not an engineer, far from it, but buy good taps. Don't buy your cheap, crapo taps from Screwfix, or, to be honest, even the major American brand that I'm probably not going to name because I use all their other tools, but their taps are rubbish. Like, this is a good engineering tap. I think it comes from Tracy Tools or somewhere, but they just cut so much better. They don't shatter in half, well, as easily. They're just such a better thing to use. As you can see, I'm just hand turning this in the lathe. It keeps it dead true, keeping it in the chuck. So you half turn, back till you feel the swarf go. And just good quality taps make life so much easier. And to be honest, they're not really expensive either. So yeah, spend your money on the right tools, make your job a lot easier. I mean, I normally just use Sealy tools for the rest of everything I use. All of my spanners, all of my power tools, they're all Sealy. Mainly because I can't afford to buy snap-on stuff. And they're just as good for what I need. And especially if you're doing stuff at home, you know, you don't need to buy snap-on everything. So here's the countersunk ones that I'm going to put on here. They just fit on here. I already welded this on. Allen bolt will sit flush in there, and that'll weld to the sissy bar. I've got to hold this so far away from my phone, annoyingly, because I cracked my camera lens on the close-up. So Woo! Yeah. So yeah, this will just, that will just drop in there. And that sits nice and flush. Keeps it nice and clean. And once that's all bolted on, it's very hard to do this one-handed. I'm probably going to put the camera down and do it. Oh, there we go. Once that's all bolted on, that will sit nice and flush in there. I've made it a bit thicker material than I normally would because this is going on a swinging arm, so all of this is going to move up and down with the bike. So normally I'd make this at a little bit smaller diameter. But yeah, that will sit on there nice and flush. And clean the Allen bolt up. Ooh, focus on there. Yeah, Allen bolt's nice and flush, so if you really wanted to, you could get a little Allen bolt cap in there. Here's my little wizard wand. Woo! You're a wizard, Harry! Yeah, you could put a little cap in there and you wouldn't see it at all. Right, and there we have it all done. Well, my part's all done. Stainless steel sissy bar, new seat brackets, made a Harley rack fit by modifying it and shortening it. Cut the end of the pipes down, as you probably saw in one of the earlier videos, because it looked like a hamster had chewed them. Forks are all in. Yeah, ready to be torn down, ready for powder coat. But yeah, it's turned out alright, to be fair. Not my usual style. This bike's going to obviously be doing thousands of miles. And I think it's turned out alright. Let me know what you think and don't forget to like and subscribe.